Recording
Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. So we are almost in the concluding section of the Vivekachudamani. There are many verses in the Vivekachudamani, especially in the concluding section, where we find the ideas are more like repetitions. So we will take in the end this concluding section just a few of those verses from the 43rd to the 588th, where the Vivekachudamani ends. And most probably today we will be concluding for the study of the Vivekachudamani for the time being. So you will find in the end, almost in the concluding section, the Vivekachudamani is describing the man of realization. So it's a very nice description that we will take up today. That what's the description? The description of the man of realization as has been enunciated by Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya in the concluding section of Vivekachudamani. So the 543rd verse. Nirdhana api sada tushtaha Nirdhana api sada tushtopi asahaya mahabalaha nitya tripta api abhunjanaha api asama samadarshana. So nirdhana api sada tushta. So though without riches, yet ever content. So that's the meaning of nirdhana. Nirdhana, the one who is without wealth. In spite of that, api means in spite of the fact that he has no wealth, he is ever complacent. So ever content. Sada tushta. Asahaya api mahabalaha. So though he is helpless, as such he has no support system, yet he is very powerful. So asahaya api mahabalaha nitya tripta api abhunjanaha. Abhunja. So bhukta bhunjan means to have food, but here it is used in the sense of enjoying all the sense objects. The one who is not enjoying, so it is in the sense of negation. Bhunjana means the one to enjoy the sense object. Abhunjana means the one who is not enjoying the sense objects. So a man of realization, though he is not enjoying the sense objects, yet he is eternally satisfied. Nitya triptaha. So he is eternally satisfied. And then asama api samadarshana. Asama. So he is unparalleled. No one is equal to him. He is a person of excellence. That's the meaning of the word asama. But at the same time, he is having that wonderful trait of samadarshana. So he is unparalleled. He is a person of excellence, but he looks upon all with an eye of equality. So very nicely, in this verse, a man of realization has been described. So nirdhana api sada tushtaha. So that's what so many times in some other context we have mentioned, that why a sannyasin is called Maharaj. The Maharaj means the king of king. And now a sannyasi, a monk, has no wealth. He is not supposed to have any personal wealth. And still he is called Maharaj. So the idea is very, very, very beautiful. What's the idea? That the real sign of richness, what is the real sign of richness? Is that to go beyond any need. If I have no need, that speaks of my richness. But we will find in this world, in spite of all our richness, all our riches, we still hanker for more and more and more. That speaks of dainya, that speaks of poverty. That unless our need is gone, how can I say that he is a wealthy person, he is a rich person? But a monk, that's the paradox. He may have no riches, but he is always satisfied. Being established in the self, he is always satisfied. So that's why he is called Maharaj, the King of Kings, because he has gone beyond all needs. So there's a wonderful story, most probably you have read it long back, that a minister, he was working under a king as a minister, and the king relied on the minister for all the royal responsibilities. He was a very efficient minister, and the king totally relied upon him. But on the process of his execution of the duty in years, it so happened that this minister, who was a bit spiritually evolved, developed a sense of dispassion. So he thought, enough of this royal duty, I want to resign. I don't want to continue anymore. So he went to the king to get his permission to forsake the responsibility of the minister. The king was not willing, because he had to rely upon him so much. He was a very efficient person. So the king was not willing, but the minister went on insisting. He was totally, you can say, disgusted with this administrative job. So he thought, no more, enough of it. So he, though the king was imploring, he was again and again denying to continue with his responsibility. So the king, finding no other way, at last had to just concede to he had to just accept the request of the minister. And then the minister left the kingdom. No one knew where he has went. Years passed. Some about 10-12 years passed. Now the king, he used to go around his kingdom in disguise to see how everything is going on. Just to have a supervision of the entire kingdom, he used to go in disguise. So one day, in such disguise, he was moving around in his own kingdom, and he came almost to the boundary, to the fringes, to the extreme point of his kingdom, from where a forest started. It was a deep forest. So now the king was thinking of returning. It was already getting a bit dark. It was dusk. And suddenly he noticed someone is sitting bit inside in the forest. Under the tree, someone is sitting. So he was curious. How come in this hour someone is in the forest sitting there? Let me try to see that who he is. So he proceeded towards that person, and he was astonished to see. He recognized him. It was his minister, who resigned from his ministerial job some 10-12 years back. Now the king recognized him, and he was a bit amazed. He didn't speak a single word. He was standing in front of that person, expecting that he should also recognize him, because for such a long time he was working under him. But this person who was sitting under the branch of the tree, the minister, now he appears to be a recluse. He didn't seem to react in any way. He was quite relaxed. He was spreading his legs out, and his hands were folded. Just relaxed. He has folded his hand and his legs were spread out. King, seeing him so relaxed, so casual, felt a bit hurt. After all, he was my minister, he was my subordinate, and he doesn't show any sign of respect. So that's in the Hindi, that's the word sentence is, the king asked, from when have you learned to sit with your legs extended this way? Pao falaya kapse, that was the word. And the ministers replied immediately, Haath sameta jabse. So the time from when I have learned to withdraw my hands, I have nothing to ask from the world. I never have to extend my hand to ask anything from the world. I have just folded my hands. From that day, I am relaxed. I have spread out my legs. So that's the idea which is being meant by Nirdhana api sada tushta. So sometimes we hear that sometimes a rich person is extremely poor. A so-called rich person with a lot of wealth is extremely poor. Why? Because he has only that wealth and nothing else. No peace, no good relations. You'll find that he's so obsessed with his wealth, his relations have been compromised. He has no peace in his life. So he has nothing else. No other traits, positive traits are visible in his life. Only the thing he has is wealth. Such a person is extremely poor. Unless we develop all the spiritual faculties, which speaks of the real treasure, the real wealth, we can never consider a person to be rich. And that's being indicated by the idea, Nirdhana api sada tushtaha. Api asahaya mahabalaha. Asahaya api. So though he is helpless, appears to be helpless, but he is extremely powerful. What's the reason for his being extremely powerful? So in Kathopanishad, there is a very wonderful mantra. What's the mantra? Yasya brahma chakshatrancha ubhe bhavata odanaha mrityur yasya upasechanam ka ittha veda yatra saha. It's a very nice mantra. So for a man of realization, yasya here indicates a man of realization. For him, brahma cha kshatrang cha ubhe bhavata odana. A Brahmin and a Kshatriya both are food for him. So it's a allegorical statement. The meaning is something very beautiful. The first line says, for a man of realization, Brahmin and Kshatriya both are just like food. And not only that, mrityur yasya upasechanam. Death is just like a condiment, some spice. The food is never tastes good without some spice. So the Brahmin and the Kshatriya is the food, and death is the spice, the condiment, which enriches that food, which makes it more flavor, that it gives more flavor to the food. Ka ittha veda yatrasa. So the one who has known Veda, for such a person, this Brahmin and Kshatriyas are the food, and death is the condiment. So what actually it indicates? So now we will find, for us, for most of us, the so-called, the entire humanity, you'll find by what we are ruled by the Brahmin and the Kshatriya. Even now, Brahmin is not a particular caste as per the heredity. Brahmin means the one, the one who is the priest, in the olden days, the priest class, the Brahmin. So those so-called, those who are the upholder of the religion. So these are the Brahmins. And Kshatriya, they are the kings. They are the one who rules. So even now we will find that by what a person's daily life is regulated, by the laws fixed by the government, by all the commandments and the dictums which has been proclaimed by the church, by the priest. These are the two things which guides our life. For a man of realization, he goes beyond that. There is nothing to withhold him. It's a very interesting thing. Throughout the history, spiritual history, you will find when a man of realization speaks out, he speaks the truth. He is not afraid of anyone. What he has realized, he boldly speaks out. And we will find that in the history of this spirituality in all nations, India is an exception where religious persecution never happened. But in other places we will find a man of realization when he proclaims the truth, and the truth seems to not conform with the dictums and the norms of the society. The so-called the heads of the society, be it either the priest or the king, they start warning him. But he is a man of freedom, fearless. What he has known as the truth, he proclaims fearlessly. And then we find a lot of persecution is there. Whether it be Jesus, whether it be the Sufi saints, there are innumerable examples in the history of spirituality where we find just for proclaiming the truth, a man of realization is persecuted. And now here it is saying the Brahmins and Kshatriyas becomes his food. Why it becomes his food? Food nourishes us, isn't it? Now you will find when they are persecuted, their ideas start spreading. They speak the truth, the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas, the priest and the king starts persecuting them because they are not conforming to the laws of the nature, the laws of the so-called the society, and they start persecuting them, and this persecution we find helps in spreading the message. So now I will find why it is that spreading the message means it nourishes that idea for which he stands for. Just the way the food nourishes us, that persecution of the Brahmin and the Kshatriya nourishes the idea, the truth for which this person is the symbol. He is the one who represents that truth. So for that ideology, that starts spreading. Throughout the history of religion you will find that. And that the persecution ends in the death. Like Jesus being crucified. Sufi saints were so many had to just be persecuted and they were condemned to death. And their death not only helped to spread the message, it became that message started. Now previously it was spreading just normally, and now it flares up. We find now the idea starts spreading very fast, just like wildfire. And that's why he's saying the mrityu is just like the condiment, just the spice that does it. It helps to spice up the spread of the message. So now you will find that he is asahaya, he appears to be helpless, but he is extremely powerful. Throughout the history of religion, who is more powerful than all the spiritual leaders? In spite of being persecuted, they are the one who are being revered as God in the human society. For generations people worship them. So this tremendous strength has been spoken of here, that they appear to be asahaya, as if helpless. The entire society in his time has as if gone against him. But that proved to be his strength. That api asahaya mahabalaha. So though helpless, he is yet very powerful. Nitya tripta api abhunjanaha. So though that our idea is that the enjoyment of the sense objects is the only source of happiness. But we find this man of realization has totally abstained themselves from the enjoyment of the sense objects. But they are always happy. So as a revision, that example which we give again and again, that Swami Vivekananda's example, that what's the actual source of happiness? It's the self. It is because of ignorance, I think, the objects of the senses gives us happiness. It never gives us happiness. When we are intensely desiring to enjoy a sense object, what happens? That this desire speaks of this turbulence of the mind. As long as I don't fulfill my desire, my mind is turbulent. Swamiji is saying that mind is just like a lake, and the turbulence is just like the waves on the lake. When there is a wave on the lake or on a reservoir, I can never see the bottom of the lake or the reservoir. It's only when the water is calm I can see the bottom. Now, because of the turbulence, I cannot see the bottom of the lake of the mind, which is my real nature, which is Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa. It is full of bliss. Bliss is its nature. I won't say full of bliss. If you say full of bliss, the idea is bliss is something with which it has been filled. That its nature is not bliss. It is bliss is something by which it has been filled. So we should never say the self is full of bliss. What the actual expression is, it is bliss. It is not filled with bliss. It is bliss. So this Ananda Swarupa. So that Ananda Swarupa, the self, which is the bottom of the lake, the self is reflecting, is projecting itself through the mind. But that mind is turbulent. So when the mind is turbulent, just when there is a wave in the lake, I cannot see the bottom. Similarly, the Ananda Swarupata, the blissful nature of the self, is not realized. It cannot be seen when the turbulence is there. Now, when the sense object which I am desiring, the desire is fulfilled, that moment what happens? That all the turbulence of my mind for the time being has now settled. The desire is fulfilled, the turbulence has gone, the mind is calm. And I feel ecstatic. And I get deluded by the feeling that this sense object has given me happiness. But actually what has happened? The happiness is something which is my nature. Because of the turbulence in my mind, I could never realize it. Now the mind is calm for the time being, and that happiness percolates through my mind and makes me feel I am happy. So this ignorance, that sense object gives me happiness, what happens? That calmness is there for the time being, and again, because now I am convinced that it is the object that gives me happiness. So this makes me to chase after the desires again and again and again. And I find I can never remain happy, relentlessly, uninterruptedly. It is just for a moment and then it is gone. But for a man of realization, all his desires have fallen. He knows he is the self and he is ever fulfilled. It is because of ignorance people feel that he is unfulfilled and chases after desire. But he has realized he is the self. He is ever fulfilled. So there is no question of chasing after the desires. So as a result, he has become dhiraha. His mind is always calm. He never wants this and that, constantly chasing after so many arthas, sarvarthata, so many accomplishments I have to have. That has totally vanished from his mind, from his psyche. His mind is always calm. He is nitya tripta. And then what happens? There is no filtering factor of the bliss of the self that percolates through his mind always. And that's why he is nitya tripta. Api abhunjana. Though he is not indulging in the sense objects, though no, he is not his feeding on the sense objects, he is ever satisfied. He is nitya tripta. And then api asamaha samadarshana. Though he is a person par excellence, because he has achieved the goal of life. As a human being, it is something which is rare. Though it is the goal of human life, only a few can reach that goal. What is the goal of life? As this Vivekachudamani in the beginning we studied. Jivan mukti sukha prapti hetave janmadharana. To enjoy the bliss of liberation while living. Not after death. To enjoy some post-mortem happiness. Happiness in some post-mortem existence after death. No. Here itself, here itself in this life, I test the bliss of liberation. Jivan mukti, liberated while living. Jivan mukti, sukha prapti, hetave janmadharana. That's the purpose of human birth. But only very few can reach that state. So they are a person of par excellence. As has been indicated in the Kathopanishad, this very nice mantra. This Sravanayapi bahubhir yona labhya. Srinvantopi bahavo yam na vidyuhu Ascharya vaktya kushalosya labdha Ascharyasya gyata kushalanushishtah. So it's very nice. The Sravanaya, that first of all, a huge percentage of the humanity is not interested in religion at all. So they are not even interested in listening to the spiritual truths. So forget about them. But again, those who have developed some curiosity to listen to the spiritual truth, we will find that though they listen, they can never realize, they can never understand, comprehend the spiritual truth in its real sense, in its real purpose. What's the real purpose? Most of us take all sorts of this supernatural powers, siddhis, some superstitious belief to be the religion. So even those who have heard, they couldn't realize the real significance of religion, the real purport of religion. So that's why Sravanayapi, though they have heard Sravana, Bahubhir Yona Labhya, they cannot achieve that goal. Srinvantopi Bahavo Yamna Vidyuhu. And even those who have heard, a very few of them can, Vidyuhu means they have comprehended the truth. To truly comprehend the truth, even those who have heard, amongst them only a few can comprehend the truth. And not only that, Ascharya Vakta Kushalosya Labdha. So it's very rare indeed that you get a real seeker, and that there are so many seekers. But again, to get a genuine teacher. So Ascharya here means not only just surprising, that what surprises us, something which is rare. Anything which is rare, that surprises us. Something which is not what it can be seen or perceptible in our day-to-day life. That's what makes us surprised, makes us feel surprised. So that's why that as such a teacher, a illumined teacher, and a genuine seeker is something rare. That's what the Upanishads say, they are ascharya. Something, a matter of this surprise, amazement. They are amazing. Ascharyasya gyata kushalanusishta. And ultimately the one who have comprehended, and after intellectual comprehension has gone to the realization, is a gyata. So that's kushala anushishta. So this in the one who by after understanding has gone through the spiritual practices, at last to go to the realization. He is a rare person indeed. He is a real amazing person. So that speaks of asamaha. That a man of realization is something excellent. It's very rare. But such a person, again, we will find, what is his characteristic? That in his life we don't find any sense of that bragging or sense of superiority, that, oh, I am superior to all. So he is something very different. A wealthy person may feel, I am very superior to others. A man of power and position in this world may feel, I am superior to others. But a man of realization, though he is the most superior among all the human beings, but in his day-to-day life we find a wonderful thing. He is samadarshi. He considers everyone as his equal, because he doesn't see the external. He doesn't see us as just a conglomerate of body, mind, senses. He sees into the core of the being of each and everyone. And there it is the same self alone who is residing in the core of each and every being. And seeing the self in all, he becomes samadarshi. He becomes a person of this equal vision. He sees all with equal vision. He sees the Brahman in each and every being. So that's what is being indicated even in the Bhagavad Gita. There is a wonderful sloka which we have studied in the 5th chapter. What? Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshina. So truly learn it with the eyes of the divine knowledge. So Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. And when I see with equal vision what he sees, there is no distinction from him. A Brahmin, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. So even in that, if you go to some tribal belt, you will find that tribes do feed on dogs. So this is the dog eaters. So generally, the so-called civilized society may think they belong to a very this lower rung of the society. But for a man of realization, he sees them all as equal. The Brahmin, the cow, the elephant, the dog eater, means all, the entire this gamut of beings is nothing but the self and self for him. So for him, that though he is a person par excellence, but in his vision, everyone is same. So that's the wonderful sloka which we find, in which a man of realization has been described. And for such a person, what is his attitude towards his body? In the 549th verse, we will find that's the thing which has been spoken of. That what is his attitude towards his body? This with an example. It has been depicted here. What is the attitude of a man of realization towards his body? Ahi nirlya yaning. Nirlavyaning va ayang muktva. Nirlavyaning va ayang muktva va dehang tutishtati itas tatah chalyamana yat kinchit prana vayuna. So this nirlvayaning, ahi nirlvayaning, this is what it speaks of. Ahi nirlvayaning va ayang. So we all know that the snake gets rid of its skin. Just when they enter in the state of hibernation, they lose their skin. They shed their skin. So the snake, the way it loses its skin, that's what is meant by ahi. Ahi means the snake. Nirlavayaning. Nirlavayaning is the skin. So the way he discards his skin. Similarly, a man of realization has discarded his attachment to the body. So however he rests, he rests discarding the body, just like a snake discards its skin, its slough. The body may now, but does it mean he just will be discarding the body and just he will be going to the state of this death, that he will be dying? No. But discarding the body, what it means, just like the snake. Just like the snake, after discarding the body, it still can move on, wriggle around. And it creates a new body, of course, wriggle around. So similarly here also, a man of realization, itas tata chalyamana, he moves hither and thither. He moves hither and thither, yat kinchit prana. The whatever that prana vayu is there. This is the idea of that prarabdha. That a man of realization, when he goes to that realization, then what happens? The actions, the fruition of the actions which has resulted in this body, till the momentum of this fruition of that action is over, his body continues. That momentum of the prarabdha makes him continue with the body, but his attachment with the body has gone. So if this pranavayu, as long the pranavayu is remaining because of the prarabdha, the remnant pranavayu, he is moving hither and thither. But he has actually, if you just see subjectively, he has left his body, discarded his attachment to the body. So this is the idea, as we find in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, when he was suffering from cancer. He was suffering from cancer. If anyone is to ask, "Sir, how are you?" he used to say, শরীর তার দুঃখ জানে, মন তুমি আনন্দে থাকো. The body knows its suffering, mind be at bliss, being identified with the Atman. So that's the idea which has been spoken of in the 549th verse. And then in the 559th verse, what is being spoken of? So it's giving another example. Kulyayam atha nadyang va shiva kshetre api chatvare parnang patati chettena tarokingna shubha shubham. So for us, for an ordinary person, we are so much bothered about what will happen to my body after the death, in what way it will be cremated. We'll find, as we are so identified with the body, the entire Egyptian civilization with all its pyramids, what it speaks of, this identification with the body, that even after death I think that this body is the real me, and that's why it has to be preserved. And that's the basic idea behind all this construction of the pyramids. There's tremendous identification with the body. That how a Taj Mahal has to be built on the dead body. But for a man of realization, he just discards the body just the way a tree discards its leaves. At the time of the fall, in the autumn, when the leaves are being discarded by the tree, is the tree in any way bothered where these leaves fall? Whether they fall on some drain, on some sewage, or it falls on some river, whether it falls on some Shiva Kshetra, the temple of Shiva, a sacred place. Va Chatvare. Chatvare means in the crossroads. It falls in a place where the roads are crossing. The tree is not bothered. Similarly, a man of realization is not bothered whether the body is being properly cremated, or it is simply being disposed of. What happens to it, it is not bothered, because he has totally disidentified with the body. He knows he is the self. So the way that there's no good and evil effect touches the tree. The tree is in no way affected by good or by evil effects, by the falling of its leaf. That's what Shubha Shubham. Taro King Shubha Shubham. The tree neither attains something good nor attains something evil by the falling of its leaf in some river or in some sewage tank. It has nothing to do with it. It has simply discarded it. So similarly, a man of realization has no attachment to the body. He is not bothered in what way that it is discarded, that what it is done once it is discarded, in what way it is cremated after it has been discarded. As it has no attachment, it has in no way any concern regarding those matter. So that's the idea which has been spoken of here. Kulyayam means the sewage. This means some small stream or some sewage. Atha nadyam, or in the river. Shiva kshetre, in the place which is the place consecrated to Shiva, like Kashi. That we say that in Kashi Maranat Mukti. That in Kashi, whoever dies will attain liberation. It's not false, it is fact. But a man of realization is not bothered about that. He need not have to go to Kashi to leave his body. Wherever he leaves his body, he will be released from the bondage of this transmigration. So whether it is in Shiva Kshetra, like Kashi, or in the crossing of the roads, which is considered to be a very dirty place. It's a place where no one thinks to be a very holy, sacred place. So the crossing of the roads, full of dirt, whether leaf falls there or in the Shiva Kshetra, nothing affects the tree. Similarly, man of realization, whether he leaves his body in the Shiva Kshetra or in the busy humdrum, in the humdrum of some busy place, it doesn't in any way affect him. So, so this what Swami means is Parnang patati chet tena taro king nashubhashubham. So just the tree in any way incurs good or evil effect for the leaves falling in a good or bad place? No. So similarly, a man of realization is not affected by in what way his body is cremated. So that's the idea which has been spoken of in the 559th verse. And then that this has been spoken of, that he has no attachment to the body. But that's not all. He is not attached to the body, but he is attached to something else. What to attach to what? He is attached to the self. Not only attached, he has become one with the self. He has become one with the self. That's the idea which is being spoken of in the 566th word. The sage is one with Atman. What it is saying very nicely. Kshirang kshirang yatha kshiptang tailang tailang jale jale sangyuktam ekatam yati tatha atmani atmavit mani. Kshirang kshirang. When the milk is poured into the milk, it becomes one with that milk. Before you pour, the two milks are distinguished, separate. But once you pour, can you in any way separate the two milks? No. So it's kshirang kshirang yatha kshiptam. When you are pouring milk in milk, it becomes one with the milk. Tailang tailang. The same way, when the oil is poured into oil, it becomes identified. Jale jale. When the water is poured into water, it just gets identified with it. Similarly, that a man of realization, sangyuktam ekatam yati tatha atmani. So similarly, a man of realization becomes one, ekatam. This becomes one with the Atman. Who becomes? The one who is Atmavit, the one who has known the Atman. So once, knowing the self is becoming one with it. As has been spoken of even in the Upanishads. In the Kathopanishads, almost a similar idea is there. Yathodakam, shuddhe shuddham, asiktam, tadrigeva bhavati, evang muner vijanata, atma bhavati gautama. Yathodakam, yatha udaka, udaka means water. Yatha udakam, yathodakam. Just the way water, shuddhe shuddham. When the pure water is poured in pure water, it becomes asiktam, tadrigeva bhavati. Tat tadrigeva means it becomes one with it. That's of the same nature. So, yevang munir vijanata. Similarly, a muni. What is a muni? Mananshila. One is contemplating on the self. Through the contemplation of the self, the one who is doing manana is a muni. With the contemplation of the self, he at last comes to know the self. Vijanata Atma. And then what happens? He becomes Atma. Atma Bhavati Gautama. So as pure water poured into pure water becomes one with it, similarly, O Gautama, that's what happens. The self of the sage who knows becomes one with the self. The same idea we find even in the Mundaka Upanishad. Yatha Nadya. Very nice idea. This Yatha Nadya Syandyamana Samudre Stang Gachanti Nama Rupe Vihaya Tatha Vidwan Nama Rupad Vimukta Parat Param Purusham Upaiti Divyam. Yatha Nadya Syandyamana Samudre. The various rivers are going to the ocean. Till it reaches the ocean, they have a name. They have particular fixed boundaries, particular route. They have a name. This is Ganga, this is Yamuna, this is Brahmaputra. So all these names are there. They have a definite route for their flow. They are restricted by the shores. But once they reach the ocean, they become boundless and they become one. Once they reach the ocean, can I anymore distinguish which is the water of Brahmaputra, which is the water of Ganga, and which is the water of Yamuna? No, they became one. The Nama Rupa, Nama Rupa, that have vanished. Name and form has vanished. They all have become one with the ocean. So similarly for a man of realization, The once he has realized, he becomes one with the ocean of this Satchidananda. These all the names and form, they fall off. Nothing is there to distinguish them as an individuality. So as flowing rivers disappear in the sea, losing their names and forms, so a wise man, freed from name and form, attains the Purusha, who is greater than the great. This is ultimate reality. That's the meaning of the word greater than the great. He is a transcendental reality. He becomes one with that. So, there's two things, as Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Vishaya Virag, Ishwarya Anurag. So, got detached from the Vishaya, sense objects, and his attachment to the self has at last made him one with the self. So, these are the two things which a man of realization attains. And then, very nicely in the 572nd verse, it has been said that the self is beyond affirmation and negation. When I say I believe in self or I am the self, know it for certain, I haven't yet realized the self. And if someone says I don't believe in self, I don't believe in God, it is the same as it is the same, it is just a thought. The one who says I don't believe in God, it is just a thought. The one who says I believe in God, that also is a thought. The real self is beyond the thought. To go beyond the mind, to be one with the self, is the goal. And that's what a man of realization attains. So it is neither a state of assertion nor a state of negation. So how nicely it has been spoken of in the 572nd verse. This 572, what it is saying? Asti iti pratyayo yah cha nasti iti vastuni buddhe eva guna vittau natu nityasya vastuna. That affirmation that God is, asti iti pratyayo. Pratyayo means the thought, the content of the thought. What the content of the thought is? God is. So asti iti pratyaya, the affirmation that God is. Nasti iti vastuni, and the negation that God is not. Both these are nothing but pulsations of the buddhi. Buddhe eva gunavetyo. They are just a thought wave. Natu nityasya vastuna, that it is not that eternal reality. So it is just a thought. What it is speaking of, when someone is denying the self, I don't believe in self, I am not the self. This is a thought wave. And the thought wave only can arise when it is in association with the self. So we can just say that the thought wave is witnessed by the self. The one who is saying, I am not the self, I don't believe in self, there is no God, I deny the existence of God. It is just a thought. Who is witnessing? The so-called the self is witnessing. That's why very nicely it has been said. The denier of the self is the self. The one who is denying that there is no self is the self. He is the witness of all our conceptions about the self. When I say the self is, this is also a thought. The self is actually witnessing that. So this is a thought. That is not the self. When I say Aham Brahmasmi, it is just a thought. But the one who is witnessing that thought is the real self. So that is a wonderful idea which is spoken of here. So some Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya says in his commentary on the Brahma Sutras, very nice thing he says, that God is the very self of the one who negates God. So what he says, Ya eva nirakarta, tasya eva atmavat. Nirakarta, the one who doesn't believe in the existence of God, who denies the existence of God, for him, the one who is denying, the denier is the Atma. Tasya eva atmavat. That the one who negates God, that God is the very self of that person. So how nicely is being mentioned. So it's only the one who has realized the self. He has gone beyond all these words. As in the Upanishad, they say man of realization is Nativadi, na ativadi. We are all ativadas. Whether we say I believe in God or whether I say I don't believe in God, what we are doing, our speech is transcending our realization. I know nothing of God. So when I speak about God, I am speaking about something which transcends our realization. When I speak of self, I am speaking of something which transcends our realization. But a man of realization is silent. He doesn't speak because he knows that when he is speaking, he's just that speech is something which is associated with the thought, and the self is beyond that thought. So that's why he is silent. He never speaks in affirmation nor in negation. He knows the self is, and it is just a matter of his realization which cannot be described. It is experienceable, not describable. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Kamon ghee na jamon ghee. It is just like the taste of clarified butter. You know what it is, you experience it, you taste, you know its taste, but you cannot describe. Similarly, the self cannot be described because it is something beyond the pulsations of the mind, beyond the thoughts, beyond the pratyayas, the thought waves. It is beyond the thought waves. So that's why the one who is established in it, he is neither speaks in affirmation nor in negation. He is just what he is. So we will conclude our discussion on the Vivekachudamani with the 578th verse. What it is saying? Iti acharyasya ityacharyasya shishyasya sangvadena atmalakshanam nirupitam mumukshana sukhabodha upapattaye. So thus by the way of dialogue between the teacher and the disciple, acharyasya sishyasya sangvadena, in the process of the entire Vivekachudamani has been composed by Bhagavad-pada Shankaracharya in the form of a dialogue between the teacher and the student. So this dialogue between the teacher and the student, this sangvada, acharyasya shishyasya, about what? About the nature of the Atman, Atma Lakshanam. So that has been ascertained now. Through this dialogue, it has been ascertained, nirupitam. It has been ascertained for what? Why it has been ascertained? Mumukshonam sukha bodha upapattaye. So upapattaye, for the comprehension of the mumukshu, one who is an earnest seeker, who wants to get established in the self, for such a person to comprehend that easily, sukha bodha. He has written, Bhagavad-pada Shankaracharya has written this entire Vivekachudamani in the form of the dialogue, so that a mumukshu, an earnest soul, can easily comprehend this. So with this Vivekachudamani is being concluded, and we will find that this dialogue is a very important form of transmitting the knowledge. It's not only this Vivekachudamani. All our major scriptures, be it Bhagavad Gita, be it Bhagavatam, be it the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, you will find they are all in this form of this dialogue. Unless an earnest seeker approaches an illumined soul and asks the genuine questions, the spiritual truth can never be transmitted. So whether it's Bhagavad Gita, where we find Arjuna, his despondency has resulted in this expounding of the entire Bhagavad Gita by Sri Krishna. In Bhagavatam, when we find that the king Parikshita is in a tremendous crisis, moment of crisis, having only 7 days of life left, and what a person should do when he knows that life is so short, it is just waiting, the death is just waiting, and 7 days he is going to die. What is his duty at this moment? So this earnestness to know the duty of such a person, we find that he is approaching Shukadeva. He was approaching the teacher called this noble, the highly illumined soul, Shukadeva. And Shukadeva's exposition is what is known as this Bhagavatam. And it's the same thing we find in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. When Mahendranath Gupta, he was really in a crisis moment of his life. He was actually contemplating of suicide. And that's how by chance, so one of his relative took him to Sri Ramakrishna, and there he, with his earnestness to know about the spiritual truth, approaches Sri Ramakrishna. And we find this entire gospel is not only the dialogue between Ramakrishna and Master Mahendra, that so many other disciples are coming with that earnest seeking, and Sri Ramakrishna's exposition is an answer to all those questions in the form of dialogue. So this dialogue is a very important form of imparting spiritual instruction. When an earnest seeker asks genuine questions, then only the teacher's knowledge that comes out from his heart to reveal the truth. And that's what has been spoken of in the concluding section of the Vivekachudamani, with which we conclude the discussion of the Vivekachudamani for the time being. So immediately next week, most probably we won't have any class, just as we are concluding the Vivekachudamani this week. And in the following Thursday, so we will take up some new subject, and that we will let you know. We will email you and let you know what we are going to start in the following, not the next Thursday, the following Thursday. So with this, we conclude our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskar.